The sun sank behind the rugged hills of Moab, painting the horizon with streaks of crimson and gold. From the royal palace overlooking the plains, King Balak of Moab stood trembling at the sight that stretched beyond the Jordan Valley. The camp of Israel, vast, organized, and shimmering with thousands of tents, had settled like a living sea upon the land. These were no ordinary wanderers. Stories of their conquests had spread like wildfire. They had defeated mighty kings, Sihon and Og, and now their eyes were fixed upon Canaan. Fear seized Balak's heart like a vice. He turned to his counselors, his voice trembling. "This people will lick up everything around us, as an ox licks up the grass of the field." His solution was not war, but sorcery. He sent word to a distant prophet named Balaam, a man whose blessings and curses were said to shape destinies. If Balaam would curse Israel, perhaps the Moabites could stand. Thus began one of the strangest and most mysterious stories ever told. Far away, beyond the Euphrates River, the prophet Balaam dwelt, a man of reputation and power. Kings sought his words, his prophecies carried weight in the unseen realm. Yet Balaam's heart was divided. Though he spoke of Yahweh, his motives were often entangled in personal gain. One evening, as he communed in solitude, weary from the day's rituals, messengers from Moab arrived with treasures in hand. They bowed and delivered Balak's request. "A people has come from Egypt and covers the face of the land. Come now, curse them for me, for I know that he whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed." Balaam's eyes flickered, not just with curiosity, but with the glint of greed. Still, he spoke cautiously. "Lodge here tonight, and I will bring back word to you, as the Lord speaks to me." That night, the presence of God broke through the veil of Balaam's thoughts, asking sternly, "Who are these men with you?" It was not a question of ignorance, but confrontation. The voice of the Almighty thundered within Balaam's spirit, commanding, "You shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed." The divine decree was unmistakable. Israel's destiny was protected by covenant, and no sorcery could undo what God had established. At dawn, Balaam rose and faced the Moabite princes. His expression was solemn, though disappointment simmered beneath the surface. "Go to your land," he said flatly. "The Lord has refused to let me go with you." They departed, frustrated and embarrassed, but word soon reached Balak, who refused to give up. "Send again more honorable princes," he commanded, "and promise him greater reward." So, the second delegation rode out, bearing richer gifts and flattery. When they arrived, they said, "Let nothing hinder you from coming to me, for I will promote you to great honor." Balaam's resolve began to waver. The test had come, not of prophecy, but of purity. That night, Balaam prayed again, though his motives were shifting. God had already spoken, yet he sought a second answer, one that might fit his desire. The Lord, knowing Balaam's heart, said, "If the men come to call you, rise and go with them, but only the word which I speak to you, that you shall do." Permission was given, but under divine restriction. Early the next morning, Balaam saddled his donkey and set out with the Moabite princes. He appeared obedient, but deep within, ambition was stirring. He longed for Balak's favor, for the gold and glory promised him. Yet heaven was watching, and the path ahead would expose the conflict between greed and obedience, between human desire and divine will. The journey would not be ordinary, for even creation itself would rise to rebuke the prophet. The morning air was still as Balaam and his servants journeyed along a narrow path bordered by vineyards and stone walls. The prophet's heart was heavy with restless ambition. He imagined Balak's court, the rewards awaiting him, and the power of his reputation magnified across nations. But unseen to human eyes, an angel of the Lord stood in the road ahead, his sword drawn, his countenance blazing with divine wrath. The angel's mission was clear: to oppose Balaam's reckless advance. Balaam's donkey, a humble creature, saw what the prophet could not. Terrified by the sight of the heavenly warrior, the animal turned aside into a field. Balaam, blinded by pride and frustration, struck the donkey violently to force her back onto the path. The journey continued, but the invisible resistance grew stronger. Heaven was intervening, not to destroy Balaam, but to awaken him. The path narrowed between two vineyard walls. Again, the donkey saw the angel standing before them, immovable, radiant, and terrible in glory. With nowhere to turn, the donkey pressed close to the wall, crushing Balaam's foot against the stone. In pain and rage, the prophet beat her again, shouting curses beneath his breath. Still, the angel advanced. Finally, in a place so narrow that there was no room to turn right or left, the angel of the Lord stood directly before them, sword raised high. The donkey, trembling, fell to the ground beneath Balaam. Enraged and humiliated, the prophet struck her a third time with all his strength. Then something miraculous happened. The line between the natural and the divine blurred, and the voice of God came through the mouth of the animal. The donkey spoke, not in growls or moans, but in clear, articulate words. "What have I done to you, that you have struck me these 3 times?" Balaam, stunned but too blind to see the miracle, shouted back, "Because you have abused me. I wish there were a sword in my hand, for now I would kill you." The donkey replied with wounded innocence, "Am I not your donkey, on which you have ridden all your life, to this very day? Was I ever disposed to do this to you?" For a moment silence hung between man and beast. Then, as if a veil were torn away, the Lord opened Balaam's eyes. He saw what had been hidden, the angel of the Lord standing before him, sword gleaming, eyes burning like fire. Balaam fell on his face to the ground, trembling. The angel's voice thundered with authority. "Why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? Behold, I came out to stand against you, because your way is perverse before me." The donkey saw me and turned aside from me these 3 times. If she had not turned aside, surely I would have killed you by now and let her live. The weight of divine mercy sank upon Balaam's heart. He realized that his life had been spared through the obedience of a creature he had despised. Stricken with fear and shame, Balaam bowed low and said, "I have sinned. I did not know you stood in the way against me. Now therefore, if it displeases you, I will turn back." But the angel said, "Go with the men, but only the word that I speak to you, that you shall speak." The confrontation had changed him, or so it seemed. Yet though his lips now trembled with humility, the battle for his heart was far from over. When Balaam arrived in Moab, the sun blazed upon a kingdom trembling in expectation. Balak himself came out to meet the prophet at the border of Arnon, eager and anxious. His chariots glimmered, his robes perfumed with costly incense. "Did I not earnestly send to you?" the king cried, half in accusation, half in hope. "Why did you not come to me? Am I not able to honor you?" Balaam, his eyes weary from the journey and the divine encounter, replied carefully, "Behold, I have come to you now, but have I any power at all to say anything? The word that God puts in my mouth, that I shall speak." Balak nodded, masking his frustration with forced hospitality. That night the 2 men dined amid laughter and gold, but the air was heavy, for heaven was listening, and the unseen will of God was about to clash with the desires of men. At dawn, Balak led Balaam to the high places of Baal, a summit where one could see the outer edge of Israel's camp. The morning mist curled around the stones as they built 7 altars and offered a bull and a ram on each. Balak stood with nervous reverence while Balaam withdrew to a solitary height to seek the voice of God. The prophet's heart pounded as divine presence descended once more. When he returned, Balak's eyes searched his face, hungry for a curse. But instead, Balaam lifted his voice. "How shall I curse whom God has not cursed? How shall I denounce whom the Lord has not denounced? From the top of the rocks I see them, a people dwelling alone, not reckoning itself among the nations." Balak's smile vanished. This was no curse, it was a blessing. Balaam concluded, "Let me die the death of the righteous, and let my end be like his." Balak's anger flared. "What have you done to me? I brought you to curse my enemies, and behold, you have blessed them." But ambition is not easily silenced. Balak, desperate, said, "Come with me to another place. Perhaps there you may see only part of them and curse them from there." They ascended to the field of Zophim atop Pisgah, overlooking the wilderness. Again, 7 altars were built. Again, sacrifices were made. And again, Balaam withdrew to seek God. But when he returned, the Spirit of God came upon him more powerfully than before. His eyes glowed with divine illumination, and his words poured forth like fire. "God is not a man that he should lie, nor a son of man that he should repent. Has he said, and will he not do? Behold, I have received a command to bless. He has blessed, and I cannot reverse it." The declaration rang through the mountains. Balak, stricken by frustration, struck his hands together and shouted, "Neither curse them at all nor bless them at all." But Balaam, calm and unshaken, answered, "Did I not tell you that all I say must be what the Lord speaks?" Still, the king refused to surrender. He said, "Come, I will take you to another place. Perhaps it will please God that you may curse them for me from there." So they ascended to the top of Peor, overlooking the wasteland and the wide camp of Israel in the distance. Once more 7 altars rose, and the scent of burnt offerings filled the air. But now Balaam no longer sought omens or waited for a new command. The Spirit of God came upon him, and his face shone with unearthly radiance. He raised his hands and spoke in the power of heaven. "How lovely are your tents, O Jacob, your dwellings, O Israel! Like valleys they spread out, like gardens beside the river, like aloes planted by the Lord. Blessed is he who blesses you, and cursed is he who curses you." Balak could bear it no longer. His voice broke in fury. "Flee to your place! I said I would honor you greatly, but the Lord has kept you back from honor." Yet before Balaam departed, a final prophecy burst forth, not of Israel's present, but of her destiny. His voice grew distant, as if echoing from eternity. "I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. A star shall come out of Jacob, a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and shall crush the forehead of Moab." Balak's face turned pale. It was a glimpse of the Messiah, a light far beyond their age. Balaam spoke of Edom subdued, of Amalek's fall, of nations fading before the power of God's chosen. Then the prophet turned and walked away, the wind tugging at his robes as if to pull him back. For a brief moment, he had touched the truth, pure, radiant, untamable. But the war between spirit and flesh was not yet over. The voice of God had prevailed through his lips, but the poison of greed still lingered in his heart. Days passed, and Balaam departed from Balak's presence, seemingly humbled. But in the corridors of his thoughts, a darker whisper began to form. He could not curse Israel directly, God had forbidden it. Yet he began to reason, if they could be led to sin, God himself would discipline them. Balaam's knowledge of divine law became a weapon against the very people he had blessed. He returned to Balak with a secret counsel, teaching the Moabites to lure Israel into idolatry and immorality. Soon, Israelite men began mingling with Moabite women, attending their feasts, bowing before Baal of Peor. The wrath of God burned hot, and a plague struck the camp. 24,000 perished before Phinehas, the priest, rose in holy zeal to end the corruption. In that moment, the true curse was revealed, not one spoken by Balaam's lips, but one born from his heart's deceit. Meanwhile, Balaam's name began to fade into infamy. His earlier glory, his visions, his divine encounters, all were overshadowed by his compromise. The scriptures would later describe him as one who loved the wages of unrighteousness, a man who had gifts but no integrity. He had stood in the presence of angels, yet sold his soul for earthly gain. When Israel later went to war against Midian, the people who had enticed them to sin, Balaam was found among their ranks. It was there, in the valley of battle, that his story met its end. Struck down by the sword, the prophet who once spoke with God fell among the enemies of God. His eyes, once opened to divine glory, closed forever upon the dust of disobedience. The man who could not curse Israel perished as part of those who had tried to corrupt her. Centuries later, Balaam's legacy would echo as a warning across generations. The apostles spoke of the error of Balaam, the way of Balaam, and the doctrine of Balaam, all pointing to the same spiritual disease, the corruption of calling for the sake of gain. His story became a mirror reflecting the danger of divided motives. He knew God's voice, but his heart remained seduced by reward. He spoke divine truth, yet lived human deceit. The donkey's rebuke, the angel's warning, the visions of the Almighty, all had been mercy calling him back. But mercy ignored becomes judgment embraced. Balaam's fall is a testament that no prophetic gift can compensate for a corrupted heart. The higher the calling, the greater the fall when pride and greed take root. And yet, hidden within Balaam's story, lies a strange paradox of grace. Even through a flawed vessel, God's word remained pure. The blessings spoken over Israel endured, unbroken by human imperfection. God showed that his purposes stand above manipulation, and his covenant cannot be reversed by human greed. The same mouth that plotted deception proclaimed the coming of the Messiah. A star shall rise out of Jacob. It is as if heaven wanted to remind humanity that truth belongs to God alone. No one, however gifted, controls divine will. Through Balaam, we learn that revelation without obedience is dangerous, and knowledge without surrender leads to ruin. The story invites every believer to examine not only what they do for God, but why they do it. As the final light of Balaam's life fades into history, the camera of eternity pans back to the plains of Moab. There, the camp of Israel stands untouched, banners waving in the desert wind. Their tents glimmer under the same sun that once saw Balak's fear and Balaam's hesitation. The people of God move forward, not because they are flawless, but because they are chosen. The unseen hand that shielded them still moves through generations, protecting purpose against manipulation. And in that truth lies the central message of Balaam's story. God's blessing cannot be bribed, bought, or reversed. What he blesses, no man can curse. What he decrees, no power can undo. The tale of Balaam is more than a historical account. It is a spiritual mirror for all who walk the line between calling and compromise. It reminds prophets, preachers, and dreamers alike that the greatest danger is not external opposition, but internal corruption. Balaam's life began with divine encounter and ended with moral collapse. Yet even in his failure, God's sovereignty was magnified. The donkey's voice echoes still. Sometimes it is the humble, the overlooked, the simple vessels through whom God speaks most clearly. Pride blinds, humility reveals. The angel who stood in Balaam's path still stands in the paths of many, a divine blockade of mercy preventing destruction before it comes. If this were a film, the final scene would fade upon Balaam's empty staff lying in the dust, beside the path where the donkey once turned aside. The wind carries the faint sound of a heavenly whisper, "Only the word that I speak to you, that you shall speak." The lesson is timeless. Divine authority is not a privilege to exploit, but a trust to protect. Gifts are not badges of pride, but responsibilities of purity. The prophet who is rebuked by a donkey teaches all generations that God will humble whom he must, not to shame them, but to save them. For in his mercy, even rebuke becomes redemption. This is the abyss of Scripture Channel. Like the video, share the message with a friend, and subscribe for more videos like this one. Thank you for watching.